Back to the State and Local Sports Show here with Mark Tennis, co-founder and editor of CaliSports.com. We're at CIF State Basketball Championship Week, and it is not the St. Mary's girls still alive from San Joaquin County in the records coverage area. It is the Manteca boys. In the first state title game in their school history, in the city's history, they are the first area boys team to go to a state title game since St. Mary's in 2006. Were they to win, they'd be the first team from this county to win a state title since Ripon Christian in '94. The last public school from this county to win a state title was Stockton High, the Tarzans, 88 years ago. The now closed Stockton High. So Manteca's in some rare air. What was your initial reaction when you see not just that they beat Bishop O'Dowd, a 10-time NorCal champion, but that they beat them by 25 points?
It was, the score was surprising. The fact that they put it all together when you've seen them play, the potential was there. I mean, they actually beat Berkeley, which is the Division I NorCal champion. They beat them in overtime. So when Manteca with their three big guys, and the three big guys don't get in foul trouble, and they can put it together, their potential is very good. So, yeah, the score was surprising that they beat O'Dowd, especially after O'Dowd had beaten Western Ranch the game before.
And it's all about matchups. We were talking about this before the show. O'Dowd, a tough matchup for Western Ranch. Western Ranch kind of fueled by its guard. O'Dowd had the best guards they've seen all year. They were able to limit them enough to win that game. Western Ranch was a bad matchup for Manteca this year. They just had enough depth, and they had the length now to keep that in check and beat Manteca 3 times. And full circle in the biggest game of the year, Manteca, a rough matchup for O'Dowd. They really did a nice job. Defensive game planning for their guards. O'Dowd's good big guy, Raymond Hawkins, 6'7", fouled out of the game. In the second half, Manteca just owned the post. I mean, they won the second half 43-19. And then Anand Handal had 25 points. Kenny Wooten had 20 rebounds and a couple of dunks. So it was one of those, they game planned excellently and just took advantage of the matchup. And it seems like that's so important this time of year. Sometimes some of the best teams fall into the wrong matchup and they get eliminated.
No question about it. And then Ayala, the team they're playing in this week's state championship, is not particularly that big. They have a real good big guy named John Edgar, who's very good. But this could be a good matchup for Manteca as well, going into a state championship game.
Ayala 33-3, they're the Southern Section Division III champion. They're from Chino Hills, which is the same city near LA as the #1 team in the nation. We'll be playing in the Open Division game against De La Salle on Saturday night. I just told someone outside of work, and they kind of wide-eyed Chino Hills. It's like, oh, not that Chino Hills.
No,
that wouldn't be fair.
They're not even in the same league. Ayala's in a different league than Chino Hills. Chino Hills is in the Sierra League. And interestingly, last year's Division III state champion was Damien of Laverne, which is in the same league as Chino Hills High. Now, Ayala and Chino Hills play in a lot of different sports, and they're pretty close to each other. But in boys basketball, they're pretty far apart. I will say this about Ayala. The thing to keep in mind about Ayala, they have a 20-point loss to Sarah of San Mateo, which is not good. But they also went overtime with Mater Dei of Santa Ana. So if the Ayala team that played overtime with Mater Dei shows up on Thursday, and the team that Manteca showed up with against Bishop O'Dowd, if those two teams collide, it's going to be a great game.
Now, Manteca and O'Dowd were part of the Divisions 3 through 5 games at American Canyon. You were at the Divisions 2 through Open Division games at Sleep Train Arena in Sacramento, including De La Salle beating the Modesto Christian boys by a point in what sounded like a crazy game. What did you pull away from the weekend of the larger school NorCal finals?
On the boys' side, it was a slugfest like you'd expect. Both teams played really good defense. Came down to a kind of an unbelievable play by an underused point guard from De La Salle who scored on a three-point play with 4.9 seconds left to win the game. Going into this week's game, De La Salle's a huge underdog, obviously, against Chino Hills. But I do think they'll grind it out a little bit and keep the score a little bit down. I don't think Chino Hills is going to score 100 points. They should still win pretty easily because they are just that good. And then on the girls' side, of course, you had Miramani playing Pinewood. And, no one really thought Pinewood was going to shoot like that, like they did against St. Mary's in the big arena, and they didn't. One girl from Miramani, Claire Steele, the sophomore, actually did shoot pretty well, and that helped fuel a really easy win for Miramani. Now, the Miramani-Chaminade girls game, which is the game we thought St. Mary's was going to be in, that should be a really good game. Chaminade has 2 All-Americans. Basically, Miramani has 1. So if everybody plays up to their capabilities, it should be a very good game.
I know we're so hyper-focused on basketball because it's the most important time of the year, but spring sports have been around for a while. One of the most successful programs thus far is Tracy Baseball. I mean, they were Division I South runner-up last year. They're unbeaten this year. They're playing in the Boris Classic in Sacramento, which is kind of the closest thing, or I think the closest thing we have to like a state playoff bracket, since there isn't that one for baseball. It's just loaded with talent from Northern California, the Bay Area, and beyond. Tracy beat Elk Grove 5-4 in extra innings yesterday. Elk Grove, the defending Division I champion, 8-time section champion, at least from the San Joaquin section, kind of considered the baseball powerhouse, or one of the handful that you talk about. So Tracy, you know, it's one thing to beat area teams who might not be at that level, but I mean, that's a big statement for them.
It's a big statement. We still got a lot of games to go in the Boris Classic. Last year, St. Francis won the northern part of the Boris Classic and then went down to Southern California in early May, and then they won the whole thing, and then later finished as a CCS champion and was number 3 overall in the final state ranking. So if you can go all the way in the Boris Classic and win the title, and then win your section title, it's almost a guarantee you're going to get a high final state and national ranking.
Now, speaking of baseball, Mark Tennis does a weekly column for us, and some fun for the baseball nerds like myself this week, talking about record books in the state of California. You can kind of tease to us what you wrote about.
I wrote about all the local players and a couple coaches who are in the state record book currently. A lot of them are players who hit multiple grand slams in one game. There's one that was 2 grand slams, 11 RBIs, and 7 hits in one game. A player from Ripon, Adam Either, did that in 2000. Then some other players that hit a bunch of grand slams, and just some fun stuff going through the record book. Bob Luero at Escalon with all the wins he has, and we actually have an 1899 State Player of the Year from Stockton High that we wrote about.
Wow.
Yeah.
1899.
Believe it or not, there is one.
All right, well, CalHighSports.com, the Gold Club membership, less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month, all your state record books, rankings, insider content. It's a great deal. mark, thanks for joining us as always, and enjoy the games Thursday and Saturday. Thursday and Saturday, not Friday and Saturday this year at Sleep Train Arena.
I'll be there for every one of them.